Former Browns quarterback Baker Mayfield puts Mary Kay in her place after lying about Shedeur Sanders. It started with a speeding ticket. Just a simple late-night violation, 41 miles over the limit at 12:30 a.m. No accident, no injuries, just flashing lights, a citation, and a rookie quarterback who probably should have eased up on the gas pedal. But in the world of professional sports, where perception can outweigh performance, this wasn't just a traffic stop. If you're into the real story and all the messy twists they don't show on highlight reels, go ahead and subscribe. And if you're sticking around to see how this Browns QB chaos plays out, you should definitely be subscribed. This was the match that lit a media firestorm. And leading the charge, none other than Cleveland Browns beat reporter Mary Kay Cabot, known to fans and critics alike as Mary Kay Cat. With a tweet sharper than a scalpel and an agenda to match, she framed the incident not as a mistake, not as a learning moment, but as a red flag, a potential sign of recklessness, of entitlement, of immaturity that could jeopardize his standing on the depth chart. But what came next? That was something she didn't expect, because this time, the narrative didn't stick. And it's all thanks to the one thing Mary Kay didn't count on. Everyone else finally had receipts. Let's set the scene. Just hours after her comments went viral, fans flooded social media, not just to defend Shedeur Sanders, but to turn the spotlight back on Mary Kay herself. Old articles, archive quotes, contradictions, conflicts of interest, even some very uncomfortable stories about her own reporting style over the years. The internet had done its homework, and they were ready for class. Then came the cavalry. First, Stephen A. Smith, never one to mince words. He slammed the media's reaction as blown out of proportion, calling it typical for how young black athletes get treated when they step outside the line, even slightly. He made it clear this was a speeding ticket, not a scandal. And the way Sanders handled it? Mature, accountable, and a model response. Next up, LaShawn Shady McCoy. Let the kid breathe, he said on air. Every 21-year-old with a fast car and a little money makes that mistake. I did. You probably did too. And then the wild card, Baker Mayfield. Yes, that Baker. The former Browns QB turned Tampa Bay comeback kid. Known for his fiery attitude and never backing down from a fight, Baker dropped into the mix with a statement that turned heads. I've worked with Mary Kay. I know how she spins things. Shedeur's a good kid. Let him live. That's not a story. It's a speed trap. Mic drop. The same quarterback who once told Mary Kay to stay in her lane during a press conference was now standing up for the next guy in line, putting aside personal history to call out the real problem. Toxic narratives that cling to young athletes like glue. And you know what made all of this even more surreal? Shedeur Sanders never flinched in his first public statement. He didn't point fingers. He didn't rant on social media. He didn't duck responsibility. He simply said, I accept it. I shouldn't have been going that fast. I'll deal with it and keep it moving. We got bigger things to focus on. Then, almost as if addressing the chaos directly, he posted a quiet message to Sanders Nation, his growing legion of supporters. Appreciate the love. Stay solid. We're building something special. That one tweet? 1.2 million views. Because in a sea of noise, Shedeur did the unthinkable. He refused to make it about him. No drama. No damage control tour. Just a man owning his mistake and moving forward. Meanwhile, Mary Kay? Not so graceful. Faced with mounting backlash, she doubled down, retweeted supportive comments, like posts that criticized Shedeur's entitlement, even suggested on a podcast that people need to stop babying athletes just because they're famous. That's when fans decided they'd had enough. They went digging, not into her work, into her family. Turns out, someone close to Mary Kay had their own past run-in with the law. And while it had nothing to do with sports, the hypocrisy was glaring. If you're going to hold a 21-year-old quarterback under a microscope for going a little too fast in a G-Wagon, maybe don't throw stones from a glass house. What followed was a rare sight. The media turning on one of their own. Local journalists distanced themselves. Podcasts once friendly to her narrative cut ties. Twitter threads analyzing her coverage pattern over the past 5 years started gaining traction. And what they revealed wasn't pretty. A long trail of subtle digs at certain players. Repeated downplaying of serious locker room issues when it benefited management. And always skepticism aimed at young black QBs. Sound familiar? Because this isn't just about Shedeur. It's about a system. A system where players like Shedeur get scrutinized not for how they throw the ball, but for how they carry themselves. Where being confident is called arrogant, and being quiet is labeled aloof. Where the smallest mistake is blown into a character indictment, unless you're the right kind of quarterback. And here's the kicker. Mary Kay's version of the story didn't even line up with police reports. Shedeur wasn't racing. He wasn't fleeing. He wasn't under the influence. He was just driving too fast. Speeding. A ticket. Nothing more. But when you add in the pressure of legacy, the glare being Deion Sanders' son, and the expectations of stepping into one of the most scrutinized QB rooms in the league, that small mistake becomes a full-blown media trial. And let's not forget the real context here. This incident happened just days after Shedeur had been lighting up Brown's practice, beating out veterans, calling audibles, throwing dimes, winning over the locker room. It's not a coincidence that this story exploded right when his stock was rising. Because sometimes when a new king starts emerging, the court jester starts getting nervous. But here's the good news. The fans see it now. They're not buying the spin. They're not clicking the outrage. They're calling out the reporters, defending the players, and demanding better. And Shedeur? He's staying locked in. In the next camp session after the controversy, he didn't shy away. He took first-team reps, hit on Mari Cooper with a sideline beauty, connected with David Njoku in the red zone, led 2 scoring drives and 7-on-7 drills, all with that same calm swagger that's been turning heads since day one. Because that's what this whole story comes down to, doesn't it? Focus. He's focused. The team's focused. And the real ones, they're locked in too. So let Mary Kay write whatever she wants. Let the critics circle like vultures. Let the old-school media spin their tales. Because Shedeur Sanders isn't here to be your clickbait. He's here to win. It didn't stop at practice fields or podcast segments. The ripple effect of Shedeur Sanders' so-called controversy has reached places most rookie quarterbacks don't even dream of: late-night talk show punchlines, sports desk monologues, political think pieces. Everyone's got an opinion, and that's exactly the problem. This wasn't about discipline. It wasn't about traffic violations. It was about control, media control, narrative control, and most of all, who gets to decide what leadership is supposed to look like in the NFL. Let's call it what it is. The Shedeur Sanders backlash wasn't born from concern over speeding. It was a powder keg of resentment toward confidence, swagger, and the fact that Shedeur refused to play the role expected of him. You know the role. The grateful rookie. The soft-spoken backup. The yes, ma'am / no, sir, kind of guy who nods at every media question, even when it's bait. But Shedeur, he has other plans. And that's why they've been trying to clip his wings since the moment he laced up in Cleveland. The NFL's favorite double standard. Let's rewind to last offseason. A different quarterback, a different city. A first-round pick crashes his sports car into a barricade after a night out. No breathalyzer. No media frenzy. No front-page headlines. Within a week, forgotten. Why? Because he fit the mold. Clean-cut, PR-trained, endorsed by all the right insiders. And most importantly, he apologized the way the league likes, over-scripted and tearfully polished. Now, contrast that with Shedeur Sanders, a fifth-round pick who walks into camp with the composure of a 10-year vet, who leads a second-team offense like it's the Super Bowl, who connects with pro bowlers on and off the field, who breaks down film faster than the coaches can upload it. He didn't earn the media's trust by pedigree. He took it by performance. And that scares people. Because when someone like Shedeur rises too quickly, without waiting his turn, without playing coy, suddenly, every small mistake becomes a scandal in waiting. A minor speeding ticket turns into a character flaw. A confident interview becomes cockiness. A G-Wagon in the facility parking lot becomes a symbol of arrogance, not success. But here's the thing. Shedeur's never once denied the spotlight. He just refuses to dim himself down for it. Inside the locker room, a different story. While sports radio hosts debated Shedeur's maturity and pundits lobbed critiques from afar, the mood inside the Browns' locker room told a different story entirely. Veteran safety Grant Delpit called Shedeur one of the most locked-in guys I've seen come through camp. Defensive lineman Shelby Harris said he's already got the huddle respect most guys don't get until year 3. And a source close to the offensive line, he's got command, bro. That's not normal. They're already blocking harder for him. Even Deshaun Watson, the man technically ahead of him on the depth chart, reportedly told coaches behind closed doors, he's got it. I can see it. You can't fake that. That's what Mary Kay and others missed. They weren't talking to the players. They weren't listening to the team. They were too busy trying to tell a story that didn't exist, because the real story didn't fit their template. This wasn't about a cocky kid spiraling. It was about a mature, composed young quarterback outperforming expectations and surviving a media trial by fire. The power of silence. And perhaps what speaks loudest in all of this is what Shedeur didn't do. No PR agency crafted apology tour. No subtweets. No Instagram live rants. No sideline temper tantrums. He simply kept showing up to work, running drills, leading reps, studying film, taking notes, encouraging teammates. The kind of professionalism that isn't performative, it's personal. And that's what fans are starting to latch onto. They're not just rooting for Shedeur because he's Deion's son or because he's the underdog. They're rooting for him because he's playing the game, both on and off the field, the right way. He's showing how to respond to cheap shots without throwing one back. Mary Kay's continued spiral. Meanwhile, Mary Kay's grip on the narrative is slipping fast. After getting dragged online for 2 weeks straight, and then fact-checked by multiple national analysts, she's tried to reframe her stance, claiming that her critiques were taken out of context, that she was just raising questions, not making accusations. But the damage was already done. Fans aren't forgetting that she used a minor traffic violation to smear a player during his most crucial developmental window. They're not forgetting that she's yet to offer any similar scrutiny to other quarterbacks with far worse infractions. They're not forgetting how quick she was to call his behavior dangerous, while ignoring how safe and consistent he's been on the field. And now, her credibility is taking hits from all directions. Local talk radio hosts have started distancing themselves. Browns fan blogs have openly called for the team to revoke her insider privileges. Even national outlets that once ran her quotes without hesitation are treading carefully. It's a reckoning, and she's not alone in it. Because Shedeur's story is just the latest in a long line of athletes who've had to navigate a media landscape designed to doubt them before they ever get a chance to prove themselves. Redefining what a quarterback looks like. The traditional quarterback archetype is changing, and Shedeur Sanders is at the heart of that evolution. He's not loud. He's not quiet. He's confident. He's accountable. He studies like a coach, throws like a sniper, and leads like he was born for it. He's not trying to emulate Tom Brady or replicate Patrick Mahomes. He's being Shedeur Sanders, an identity forged in film rooms, forged in early morning workouts, forged under the watchful eye of a father who knows what greatness costs. And people are starting to notice, not just fans, not just teammates, but scouts, executives, coaches across the league. Some are whispering that if the Browns don't get ahead of this, they might end up losing the best quarterback prospect they've had in decades. Others are already plotting ways to trade for him, because greatness doesn't care about draft position, and leadership doesn't always come with a press kit. Sometimes it comes in the form of a 21-year-old rookie standing calmly at the center of chaos, grabbing the huddle, commanding the field, and ignoring the noise. The road ahead. Make no mistake, the pressure on Shedeur will only get heavier from here. The season's coming. The expectations are rising. The camera lenses are zooming in. But if the past few weeks have shown us anything, it's this. Shedeur Sanders isn't going anywhere. And the people trying to bury him, they're just digging his platform higher. So, to the doubters, the skeptics, and yes, even to Mary Kay, here's a friendly reminder. The days of crafting narratives unchecked are numbered. Fans are paying attention. Players are speaking up. And rookies like Shedeur, they're rewriting the rules. One rep, one touchdown, one calm response at a time. He doesn't need your approval. He doesn't need your defense. He's already got something better. The game to back it all up. You could feel it in the weight room. That buzz, that shift in the air. The kind of energy that doesn't show up on a stat sheet, but it changes everything. It's Shedeur's presence. Not just what he does on the field, but what it's doing to the team. The Cleveland Browns, a franchise long defined by quarterback chaos, are suddenly watching something unfold that feels different, less chaotic, more intentional, grounded, and maybe for the first time in years, hopeful. And while the media spins its wheels trying to figure out if a fifth-round rookie could really leapfrog a $230 million quarterback contract, the players, the ones in the locker room, sweating through two-a-days, riding the emotional roller coaster camp, already know the truth. They've seen it, they've felt it, and most importantly, they're starting to align behind it. Trust isn't given. It's earned fast. NFL locker rooms can smell inauthenticity like blood in the water. Flash doesn't work. Talk is cheap. You either deliver or you're background noise. But Shedeur didn't just deliver. He's already rewriting the language of leadership in that building. It started subtly, staying late with the backup receivers after others left, reviewing blitz packages with the line, asking film questions in the team group chat at midnight, voluntary reps turning into extra reps turning into expectations, expectations turning into standards. Now, he's setting the tone, and even some of the vets, guys who cycled through quarterbacks like bad Tinder dates, are quietly, steadily shifting their tone. I don't want to jinx it, said one offensive lineman off record, but it feels like the kids already QB1 the room. Everyone's just waiting for the staff to say it out loud. Because that's what happens when a locker room trusts you. They stop hedging. They stop wondering who's next up. They start playing for you. Stefanski's crossroads. And that leaves Kevin Stefanski, the head coach, in the worst possible position, having a problem 31 other teams would kill for. On one hand, you have Deshaun Watson, the high-priced starter with more guaranteed money than playoff wins in the last 4 years. The front office has publicly backed him. The PR machine has carefully been spun. But then there's this rookie who's outperforming everyone, who's winning the room, who's got the trust of the vets, and whose contract doesn't carry a single ounce of sunk cost pressure. It's a nightmare for traditional coaching logic, because in the NFL, the money usually plays. That's just the rule. But here's the twist. Stefanski's not coaching for comfort anymore. He's coaching for his job. If he loses early games behind Watson, while Shedeur is standing on the sideline with a perfect preseason and a locker room ready to run through walls for him, he's not just risking games. He's risking everything. And that's why the whispers inside the building are getting louder. It's not about replacing Deshaun right away. It's about preparing for the inevitable moment when Stefanski has to choose winning over reputation. And when that day comes, Shedeur is not going to blink, breaking the cycle in Cleveland. Let's not sugarcoat it. The Browns have been cursed at quarterback for 2 decades. Since 1999, they burned through 34 starters. That's not a number. That's a graveyard. From high first-round busts to journeyman stopgaps to hype-trained darlings who never quite arrive, the Browns have played quarterback roulette for so long. Fans forgot what consistency looks like. But here's the thing. None of those guys had what Shedeur has. The composure, the technical precision, the cultural currency, the ability to navigate chaos without adding to it. It's more than talent. It's identity. And Browns fans? They've been dying for someone who can carry the weight of the city's expectations without crumbling. That's why Shedeur's rise feels less like a surprise and more like a course correction. Maybe this is what it looks like when the right guy finally lands in the right place, without the hype, without the politics, and without the excuses. The Sanders standard is taking root. Call it whatever you want. Swagger, poise, maturity, juice. It's that factor, and Shedeur has it in spades. But what sets him apart is how he channels it. He's not yelling at teammates. He's not throwing helmets. He's not begging for headlines. He's just doing the work every single day, like he's already the starter, whether the coaches say it or not. And now, his receivers are catching balls they weren't reaching for last year. His O-line is finishing blocks harder. Even defensive backs are sharpening up just to keep pace in practice. That's culture shift. That's not hype. That's not PR. That's what happens when someone raises a standard and everyone else rises to meet it. Pat McAfee was right. When Pat McAfee called Shedeur different, people thought it was hyperbole, just more fuel for the Dion machine. Another flashy endorsement for the viral timeline. But McAfee wasn't wrong. He just saw what Cleveland fans are finally seeing up close. Shedeur is not just another QB prospect trying to break through. He's part of a new wave of quarterbacks who arrive already polished, already media-ready, film-obsessed, and prepared to lead. He doesn't need 3 years to adjust. He already adjusted. He's not waiting for permission to take control. He already has. And McAfee's not alone anymore. Analysts across the board are watching tape of Sanders' timing, his footwork, his internal clock, and asking themselves one question. How did this guy fall to the 5th round? Answer? Because he didn't come from a school that played politics. Because he was judged for his name, not his numbers. Because some evaluators didn't believe confidence could be this composed. But now, every team that passed on him is watching practice clips in silence, wondering how they missed it. The question isn't if, it's when. The Browns are at a breaking point. If Shedeur keeps this up, if the locker room stays loud, if the media tide turns, if fans keep chanting his name before he's even thrown an NFL pass, there's no way to ignore it much longer. Week 1 might be too soon. But week 5, week 8, at some point, the scoreboard will make the decision for them. And when that time comes, Shedeur won't just be ready, he'll be prepared. There's a difference. He didn't show up expecting to wait 3 years behind a controversy-laden starter. He showed up knowing that every rep counted, that every eye was on him, that every mistake would be magnified. And instead of shrinking under that pressure, he rose. This is bigger than football. Shedeur Sanders' story isn't just about quarterback competitions or preseason reps. It's about shifting the